Welcome to a GI Joburg tier list! We're going to be ranking some awesome toys, but doing it with a twist. In those heady days when GI Joe, a real American hero toys were still on shelves and not on the internet, we resorted to printed catalogs to see what else was available. We pored over these amazing compilations of exciting toy images and art for hours, quite possibly even longer than we spent playing with the toys themselves. The worlds of possibility that they presented was such an essential part of the collecting experience. Catalogs differed year to year, and also region to region. But for three South African kids growing up in the 90s, no Joe paperwork was more feverishly scrutinized than the 1991 European Catalogue. In this video, we are taking a trip back in time and ranking these toys based purely on how they were presented in that historic document. We couldn't be more excited, and we hope you'll come with us on this epic nostalgia trip. I'm Steve.
I'm Paul.
And this is Rob.
And today we're going to be talking about the vehicles from the 1991 European GI Joe catalogue. Just a quick breakdown of our ranking system. S is obviously the greatest toy ever created. You need it in your collection. It is utter perfection. A is excellent, but not quite that top god tier level. B is good. C is the dividing line. If you see it, it's a good price, you'll get it. If it's not in your collection, you're not going to cry. And then F, trash, rubbish. Push that on me.
Get out of here.
If it was free, that belongs in the bin, dumpster. So
throw it in the bin.
This is perhaps the main event. Most of the catalog is concerned with the vehicles. We did the figures last time. Any thoughts, just opening remarks on this gorgeousness?
Tons of really good vehicles. I mean, and cool reissues. And of course, we have the Tiger Force with their, wonderfully colored vehicles. There are a lot of good options here. I can't think off the top of my head like proper stinkers. So it's going to be interesting to see how we do go through this.
I feel like I should have said this when we did the figures catalog, but when people have a vision board, I think this catalog would qualify as the first time I've ever encountered a vision board. Because this catalog is seared in my memory, and I don't know, is this age, guys, that does this to you? But individual shots from this catalog are seared in my memory. But every time I see this catalog, it kind of feels new and exciting. That could just be a me thing, but I just feel like that every time I see this. It's just wonderful.
There's something very eternal about these images. I mean, the toys now are approaching 40 years old, but in this image, they are forever young. These are
the podcasters.
Fresh. These are factory fresh specimens photographed in a gorgeous studio under lovely lighting with diorama elements to just really bring out the beautiful details. These images are eternal.
Forever young, they will always be forever young.
So yes, I agree with you, Paul. There is a kind of a newness to this stuff.
It's always
something that the plastic now doesn't necessarily reflect. I mean, when was the last time you saw a dragonfly canopy that squeaky? Oh, sorry,
yeah, that is true.
Canopy. Yeah, they're always a bit scuffed and needing some TLC when you get them in hand. And if you manage to buff them, you'll never get that squeaky, fresh, minted plastic.
You've just challenged somebody. Somebody watching this is going to be like, I'll accept that challenge. And one will do it again.
Get out of my canopies. Yeah, look, I've seen some amazing jobs, but it's TLC, just true of any kind of transparent plastic. You can't get it back to it's just come out of the factory.
Well, here's an opportunity for those repro guys. Start making repro canopies.
Yeah, one of them is hold my beer. Hold my joke.
All right, gents. Shall we begin? We're going to start with the front face of the catalog, the one that has the artwork. And that means we're going to start with a heavy hitter. It's going to be
Airwolf.
The Crusader.
Whoa, the Crusader.
Yeah.
I guess they had a whole
Okay.
bunch left over from doing the Defiant, so they were like,
Defiant.
let's sell this separately.
Let's resell the part that doesn't break. You know?
Well, for many of us, this was our only exposure to a piece of the Defiant. Because if you weren't getting United States releases and United States catalogs, it's very possible that you never saw the full majesty of the gantry, the booster, and the Defiant shuttle itself. So this
Well,
thing,
that's true. We
and
didn't.
even the Avenger shuttle, the mini shuttle that goes inside, seems like a new thing. Like I didn't have any exposure to the Night Raven as it was sold originally. So the drone
Same.
was kind of a mysterious thing to me. So this seemed like a complete set. Payloads, colorization with the yellow accents also like made him very unique. And I didn't feel like I was missing out on the white version. I had no awareness of it. So is this a superlative toy or is this a very good toy? Or is it something else? Are you going to be controversial, gents?
I think it's a very good toy. I'm going to give it an A. I think space is awesome. It's cool that there's so much space to play with. It's 2 vehicles in one. You can fill a ton of characters in there. So I mean, it's a good jumping off point for space adventures.
I'm gonna agree with Rob on that, but I feel like it's the weak or the least fun part of a really great toy. Like it's got a lot of things that make it interesting, but I remember as a kid thinking it's so cool that it's like a spaceship and all that, but it doesn't look like much more than a box to carry your toys in. So it never really like had that magic for me. And it also
Space
this
APC.
catalog Space AP, yeah, and also this always looked smaller than it actually is. Like this catalog really, especially for this vehicle, did not sell its scale at all. Like it's it's much bigger in hand than it appears here on the catalog. So for me, it's kind of like, and maybe that's just how I am today. Like if I saw one of these and it was reasonably cheap and I didn't have to go through a lot of effort to get one, I might I might not go out of my way. I might get one, you know, if I've got money to hand or whatever, and it's cool. But it's not like something that's high on my bucket list or my toy bucket list. I must be honest.
Wow, that sounds like
it's kind of middling for me. Yeah, it's very much a C for me.
I agree with you, Paul. It's a C for me as well, and not just because I have the Defiant. I guess because, at least on this catalog itself, like space play seems out of step with everything. I know that as a child, if I had the Crusader, I would try and work it into everyday situations more than use it strictly for space. Because in this catalog, Cobra doesn't have an answer for it.
Yeah,
so
no
it's
stiletto.
this kind of white elephant. Yeah, no, if this was in my crosshairs at a reasonable price, as it has been in the past, I would have picked it up. But then I opened the box and the contents was very yellowed and, yeah, very ratty. So I didn't buy it. But, yeah, this is the definition of a C for me. Because it's not a bad toy. It's an amazing toy. It's just not essential.
I agree.
How does the Avenger fit inside? Is it snug? Does it somehow hook in some way? Or is it rattling around in there loose? These are questions that I'd love to answer with the actual toy. But as I say, it's not in my crosshairs. I don't know if I'll ever go out of my way to get one.
Also, I mean, I can see there's like a little like slot there behind the tail wing. It looks like there's a slot there to hold the tail wing of the little Avenger in there.
That's where my mind goes as well. That's possibly.
But like now,
probably.
yeah, but now you're sacrificing a whole bunch of empty space that could be used for storing Joes for that now. I don't know. It's a C for me. I think collectors would be way better off trying to save up for a Defiant than to try and get one of these, personally. I think the major draw cards to getting this is that if you have the Defiant already and you have the hole in your collection and you really need to fill the hole, go for it. Or if this is the only way that you can get yourself a good quality complete payload, then the bonus is the spaceship. I suppose. I don't know. And like that's how I feel. It's wrong, but and maybe I shouldn't say that. Yeah, maybe there's like scalpers going, really? But I'm sure there's already guys selling these things based on the merit of having payload with it. So yeah. Because payload's amazing.
Is this a C or something higher?
Well, I still think I still think it's an A. Right. Yes, it is kind of like out of place with maybe the rest of what's on the catalog, but it still fires up my imagination. Without even knowing that the Defiant exists, I think it's cool to be able to have GI Joe has a space vehicle, and they have a guy that comes with it, a very cool version of payload. And as I said, 2 vehicles in one. I think that's pretty awesome. And even if it is just a space APC, I think that's kind of fun.
Well, you are in fact the defending. You are in fact the dissenting
Defiant.
He's the Defiant one.
Very good. Yeah, because this guy falls into the C category, courtesy of Paul and myself. We now go straight into a sub-team, because that's how the numbering on this catalog system seemed to work, with the Sky Patrol. And right out the gate, the Sky Raven.
Wow.
This was a toy that I had as a child, or as a youth. It was my 14th birthday when I got this, and I was enamored. I got the Thunderclap on the day of my birthday, but thanks to my birthday cash swag, cash injection, whatever, you always get a bit of money from various people on your birthday, it seemed. I managed to get enough dosh to, I think it was a whole, like, maybe 250 Rand.
Oh.
Those were the days, my friend.
Straight to the Paro toy shop.
Yeah, that's like $20. Bought it, delighted with it. But my first brushings with a GI Joe jet, like big jet. I didn't. It felt like something entirely different. It didn't feel like GI Joe that I was familiar with. I mean, I was used to things like the Fang 2 and the Mud Fighter. This was mega. It had deployable landing gear. It had rubber tires. It just felt like a total departure from the quality that I was accustomed to. So, yeah, man, this blew my 14-year-old mind.
As a young human, probably 11 years old, and well into my 14s, because I still had this catalog floating around, I wanted this. And in fact, I still want this vehicle. And I don't know, I mentioned it earlier with the Defiant, but and you guys, I mean, you're not going to see it now on the screen, but I didn't have a good idea of the scale of this, because the cockpit, if you look at the cockpit, the canopy is kind of small. So in my mind, I always felt like it fit only one big G.I. Joe figure. So this thing, in essence, was like about 2/3 the size of it actually, what it actually is. And I always thought, and I don't know about you guys, but I was enamored with Chrome. I thought, like, when we were in the 90s and kids and toys, Chrome was like amazing. Like when it was done right, it was amazing. And this was done right. This whole Sky Patrol thing was quite fascinating. And so, I always thought, okay, cool. And then fast forward a couple of years, I got myself a Night Raven, and I was blown away by the size of the Night Raven. Like I was like, oh my God, this thing's amazing. And that had kind of reinvigorated my interest in this vehicle. So even though it's the G.I. Joe repaint of a Cobra vehicle, I still think it has a lot to offer anybody who gets one. And maybe it's a little bit harder to find a good one these days because of the chrome. Also,
absolutely, my Chrome has spontaneously begin to eat itself. It's just degrade into the toilet.
It's so sad, man, because that happens. And maybe this is just the timing of it right now, but I'm just going through a little bit of a Sky Patrol kick. I'm airborne, and I'm one airborne away from having the complete Sky Patrol. So my radar is kind of focused on Sky Patrol stuff. So I'm going to throw the first letter out, and for me, this is an A. It's a high quality toy. It's a really sexy version or really sexy repaint of a really amazing toy, and it's one of the best sub-team vehicles you'll get, in my humble opinion. Plus, it just looks cool. It looks cool in your house. People will be like, "Wow, that looks like an experimental NASA craft." And NASA's all like big with everybody now. So
True. But kids in the 90s, we were all like magpies. I mean, if something's shiny, right, you want it. And like, definitely, I was very excited when Stephen got this. Like, it's such a cool vehicle, and the chrome just makes it look like a proper jet. I mean, it's interesting to have jets that have like matte coloring, gray and green and whatever else. But like to have a jet that actually looks metallic. That like a proper Herb Trimpe, drawing essentially. It's a fantastic jet. I mean, even knowing now, like some of the issues that people have with it. I mean, like the cockpit essentially falling out and not being able to stay in, depending on the model that you have. It's still a fantastic jet. It has such a cool profile and such a cool look to it, and I like that it doesn't come with a little stealth jet thing, which always feels unnecessary. Like, I think whenever
the thing that it gave to the Crusader, basically, the Avenger.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, it's
an interesting link. Yeah,
I suppose like this year they're like, okay, so we'll take
let's make them cheaper.
Let's make them cheaper, but kind of move the stuff around, because we don't want to have to like shine up that little vehicle. It's an awesome vehicle. The size is exceptionally impressive.
I also think
huge piece of plastic. Wow.
I also think it's worth mentioning, if you're a Metal Gear Solid fan, in Metal Gear Solid 3, you get deployed into a battlefield in the prototype for the SR-71. I think it's an SR-70 or SR-70A or something like that, but it's pretty much the Blackbird, but it's all silver. And it's got that little pod that it releases that Snake is in. Guys, have you played Metal Gear Solid? Exactly. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Fan of GI Joe.
But obviously, this is the closest you're going to get to that in action figure form, at least in my experience.
Just some observations on the presentation here itself. Do you guys see the diorama beneath it?
Yeah, it's kind of like flying high across some sort of, there's like a river and like a bit of a cliff going on there, and there's something in
battle
there.
tank. Yeah. So my mind always raced, like, why did this one get such a cool like I don't know, terrain beneath it? Turns out, I think these were the Toy Fair American photography. So these were used to market this line to retailers in the States, which explains why the engine covers have the chrome applied. This is a prototype. Those engine covers were actually black on the mass-produced version.
Boo.
But this image was the box back image of the European Sky Raven box, which I think is super cool to get that photograph blown up big style. You get to see all of that terrain underneath. And that's something that I was also mildly blown away with. I mean, the first time I saw the Sky Raven at retail, I was about 8 years old. So it took me like 6 years to eventually get mine. But the thoughts of holding that big box and appreciating the photography of it lingered for a long time. Placed this thing a high watermark in my brain.
My poor parents have not seen this thing.
I'll be
It's an S for you.
Give it an S. Yeah, but since you guys both give it an A, that's where it'll stay.
Yeah,
but I think this is.
I will give it an A. I think because like it's awesome, it's impressive, but then again, it fits one dude. Is that right? One little dude.
It could have come with a pilot. That's the one knock I'm going to record for it.
You really could have come with a figure. But yeah,
because it needs really a dedicated figure. It's a cramped pilot seat. Strato Vipers have very small heads. to get them to fit flush.
But
with
then
the,
it would go against. I don't actually quite understand why it's part of Sky Patrol. Because Sky Patrol, at least the figures in the selection are all like paratroopers.
They jump out of
So
planes.
it's kind of why is it even part of Sky Patrol
recolor
in
force.
the first place? Yeah, essentially. But I mean, at least with Tiger Force, it makes sense. Like it's a team of guys, and they have support vehicles. They need vehicles.
Snow
to,
vehicles.
help them do snow vehicles for sure.
Snow troopers. All right, guys, let's move on from the Sky Raven. Amazing toy, a superlative toy for me, and a very, very good toy for the both of you. Now, something a little bit maybe less celebrated, the Skyhawk. I suppose it's interesting because it retains its same name. Like everything in Sky Patrol gets a Sky prefix, but since this was already the Skyhawk, it's once again the
They just
Skyhawk.
couldn't do anything else about it. They were just like, "Ooh, this is Skyhawk. Oh, we really messed up. We should have named the original something else."
But as an infantry support vehicle, this is probably Sky Patrol's like most useful thing. If they are kind of an air-based attack unit, they're going to need something quick to support them when they are doing operations on the ground, and this is it.
And it's something you can imagine them kind of like putting in the back of like a C-130 or something, and when they drop out, this essentially drops out with them.
And it's also something they can jump off.
True, it does have
you could do that.
Kind of troop capacity that none of the other aircraft in the Sky Patrol have. I always marveled at this toy in this picture at how many guns it seemed to have, because it's this little fly speck of a thing. You can clearly see the scale of it by the fact that there's a figure peeking out the canopy. You're gonna have to help me with the names. Is that Skydive?
Yes,
I always thought. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but I always thought this was, I think, Major Blood, the sound attack version of him or whatever, because he's always blue.
It does have that vibe, hey?
It kind of does look like him. I don't think
it's got enough. It's got 2 cannon and then 2 machine guns. That's 4 barrels of lead spitting death.
Wow,
in the very small nose of this thing.
Where does he keep all that ammo?
I don't know. That's where my childhood brain went. And hey, flash forward 30 years, I'm still obsessing over how insanely armed the Skyhawk is.
The thing is, this was also
got 2 rockets as well, just for shits.
Also, like, this was our first exposure, or at least maybe I'm speaking only for myself here, but this was my first exposure to the Skyhawk. I didn't know this vehicle that existed. So I always thought it was a Sky Patrol thing. And in a weird way, it makes more sense being for Sky Patrol than it does for normal GI Joe. Only because A, this catalog fueled that concept in my mind, and B, because it looks experimental. The whole chrome thing makes everything in the Sky Patrol feel very experimental. Like this is like top secret experimental craft. It's co-made with or co-designed by like Lockheed and NASA or some shit. Like it's always had that vibe. And when I was really young, and I don't know about you guys, but I was fascinated by astronauts, which is weird because I don't think the Defiant. I mean, I don't think the Defiant, but I really loved astronauts. So this shininess to this always appealed to me. And the Sky Patrol guys also kind of gave me a little bit of an astronaut vibe as well, silver parachutes and all that. But yeah.
Your solar sail. You could repurpose this.
Yeah. Guys, this
Deep
vehicle
Space Explorers.
I feel like the Skyhawk, the vintage Skyhawk, is such a playable piece and such a desirable piece for collectors just because of what it is. But I feel the Skyhawk
it's just
version,
small and fun, Like,
it is fun.
It's affordable. It feels like every kid can have one of these, have more than one of these, and just like go crazy.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, when you
were about to compare the Chrome Skyhawk with the classic Skyhawk. I'm curious to hear that comparison.
So I do feel like the Chrome one is kind of the niche purchase. Right. Like it's like you've got a normal Skyhawk. This one's nice to have. So I feel like it kind of fits in a B category for collectors because and maybe for me as well.
Or a D category for Deke. You know, the classic Skyhawk got a lot of play in Sunbow, and this Skyhawk got a bit of play in Deke. I think Sky Patrol got
Deke.
focused on for a couple of episodes, and this obviously was in there. Okay. Yeah, this is a kind of an also ran. Everyone needs the classic Skyhawk, and this is just another flavor.
No one needs this one.
In that regard, it's the very definition of a C tier for me.
Wow. I'd probably give it. I give it a B. I think it's fun. I mean, not knowing, or just looking at the catalog and comparing it to the other vehicles on it, and not knowing that the original Skyhawk exists. I think it's a fun version. I think the silver, it finishes it. It makes it look more fun. And also, you can't necessarily tell from this picture that it has no actual canopy. There's no glass in there. I don't think it's not apparent that there's no glass in there. So you won't. And then you get it and you're like, oh, there's no glass. What happened? But a B. I think it's fun. It's not like a must have, but I think it's a cool toy in itself.
Boy, you jumped in with a number early, and I've already forgotten.
Ooh.
I said it's a B.
Ooh, okay.
Well, in that case,
it's our first B.
It's an upset as well, because the Crusader lands on C, whereas the Skyhawk gets a B. Incredible.
That's insane.
I feel like you'll get more if a collector would get more from this if they go out of their way to try and find a nice one. Especially because by this time it's a repaint, so I feel like it'll be a better toy as well. I can't speak to this because I haven't got my own one. But I imagine the Sky Raven is also based on the version 2 of the Raven. Got the nicer landing gear and the better
Yes, it's
cockpit.
got the notch.
Yeah.
Sort of the little groove that you lock the slide over. All right, let's move to the strangest entry in Sky Patrol.
Oh,
the Sky
did I play
Havoc.
my hand?
The Sky.
An excuse to get the Havoc back.
Damn, dude.
This, once again, the first blushings I had with the Havoc toy, because obviously it's ubiquitous in the second season of Sunbow, so chances were high that you had some awareness of this thing as an entity, and it certainly found its way into the comic book a little bit. But this was like, this is pimp my Havoc, man. It's strange seeing that chrome on a land vehicle. But it's not an offensive colorway. Like, I like the tan parts.
It all comes.
I like the red line. I love how unbelievably retro this looks. Like, it looks so sci-fi, 80s anime cartoon sci-fi. I absolutely love this.
Space 1999.
But this is like how we were introduced to the Havoc, and it was fascinating that like this vehicle, like to me, this epitomized kind of the sci-fi side of GI Joe for me. It was one of the things that epitomized the sci-fi side of GI Joe. It definitely has the good guy lines and everything to it. Like, I mean, I never knew a green one existed. I'm gonna save my letter for last because I feel like I'm always starting these.
Did they put the same figure on?
I know this guy does everything, bro.
Skyhawk. Like, he's the only one who can pilot anything. The other guys are like, we're just dropping out of the plane.
No, we just
I guess the guys styling these photographs were like, the blue just works.
It pops, and
you can see the figure clearly, but it's not. It doesn't bring in an offensive third or fourth color. I mean, what's his name? Homeboy with the slipstream mold. I don't remember his damn name. With the green and the orange. Halloween Sky Patrol member.
He looks so nice though in Drop Zone.
He's nice, but he
would not photograph well with the vehicles at all.
I don't know. What do I know?
Well, one day when I get one of these, I will photograph him with the vehicle. And we can forever put that to bed.
It's funny though that they didn't opt to give it any other occupants. It's like this thing is vacant. They could have it resplendent with figures, and yet they've chosen not to.
You have an entire sub team that you could put into that vehicle. It's kind of like he just drove it there. He got out of the cockpit and he jumped in the thing in the back, and he's launched himself.
Like, I'm gonna jump off this thing.
It's like he's
fly
like,
and jump off it.
Don't have to drive any further. This is what I'm doing now. I think it's an awesome repaint. I think they did a really good job with this. The same with the Sky Raven. Like they've changed the colors enough to make it a unique vehicle in its own right. And it's fascinating because like you see the canopy, the thing opening at the back, and it looks like even the inside of that was chrome plated. So it's the entire thing is chrome. You know, like with the back where the vehicle comes out, like those little inside things of the door look to be chromed as well. So that like this thing has got like tons of chrome. I mean, obviously not as much as the Sky Raven, but it's a cool different look for it. I think the original coloring is much better. It suits a land vehicle more, but I mean this thing is just so pimping. Like it's just wild.
Spacey.
Like a silver land vehicle is actually kind of cool. This is definitely something that I would love to get as well. Is it an S though? I don't think so. I think the original would be an S. I'm probably gonna give this an A. It's like something I definitely want to get, but not like it's not better than the original.
Just a note about the in-universe explanation for the chrome. It differs source to source. On this catalog, it specifies that they use a radar reflective paint, which should make you more visible to radar. Let's be technical, but I guess it would make their vehicles in this explanation stealth. Whereas in the Deke cartoon, this treatment made them laser proof. Like they were impervious to laser fire.
That's something they took from Gundam.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
in Gundam,
it
there's
doesn't make them impervious to missiles, which is what you are really in danger of getting hit by if you're a fast-moving jet. But okay, fine. Everyone's just red and blue lasers in that show.
Well, in Gundam, there's a mech. He's gold. It's piloted by Shao in that specific series, Quadripigina. Spoiler alert for 30-year-old anime.
No.
And his mobile suit is coated with a reflective gold, and that's actually a beam reflective coating. So that actually makes it dissipates a lot of the damage taken from beam.
They obviously
weaponry.
copied GI Joe. Copied someone at Deep.
Oh yeah, no,
Gundam,
I think they totally copied GI Joe on that one. No, they didn't. I think it's the
I'm
other
going
way
to give
around.
this a modest score as well. It's a C for me.
What?
Really? Wow.
I'm definitely not going out of my way to get it, which
I
means
seem to be
Paul,
loving
you have
all
to,
of these vehicles.
You have to
It's an-
decide. Is
It's
it
an
more
S for
towards
me, dude.
an S?
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Yeah, it's a highly desirable
SAB.
piece for me.
But I mean,
Yeah.
the only problem is that with me and Stephen having declared our scores, you actually unfortunately have to choose between the A and C, unless you can convince me
Not
to go up to
entirely
S.
correct, Rob.
Isn't
Actually,
it?
you're
Isn't that how we
you're in
put
the
this?
middle. Is this more S or is it more C? Because the rules of the game are if
the
we
point
are
of the person who's in
if
the
it-
middle.
if the person in the middle then
extremes.
decides to push it either to the top ranking or the lower ranking.
I
so
can't
you are the
push
swing
this
vote.
out of wanting it. Like I think it's I think it's a lot of fun. I have to go up to S actually.
Yes.
Oh, our first S. How
It's a
very interesting.
And
the
it's
Sky
such an
Havoc.
obscure vehicle. And
For sure.
totally.
You boys really love it.
I can't drop it.
Really
I
do.
can't drop it that far. Like I
Yes,
could maybe
of
compromise and went to a B, you know. But like I really can't go down to like C, being indifferent about adding it to my collection.
Yeah,
I
I'll
really
accept
think
an
it's
A.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I will say
think
this
it's a
much:
must-have.
like the Havoc is a weird sci-fi freaky deaky vehicle to begin with. So why not give it this freaky deaky color scheme? Just like
Yeah, it suits
absolute
it.
balls to the wall crazy. It is a fucking lunar vehicle.
And I
Prepare
think
for
There's no
overall,
explanation. This isn't Frontline.
the three vehicles they chose for Sky Patrol do, I think, work well together. You got these kind of like, you know, the land vehicle, the little sky thing that comes with it that's supported by the Skyhawk, and you kind of have the long range reconnaissance of the, you know, Sky Raven.
And now we move to the submersible vehicle
Ooh,
when Sky Patrol
Ooh.
decide to go under the waves.
hell yeah! It's
Though
land,
not
sea, and air.
evident in this picture. This is once again a Toy Fair photography plucked from marketing material, and
Once
it shows
again, skydive.
the
Sorry.
Sky Shark in flight,
Oh, it is.
dropping that bomb. Yes, once again, skydive. Wow, Paul, good eyes. I had not. I mean, you could only make out his straps, and they've got him lying backwards. He's not in the classic prone shark piloting position.
Just like my static line is.
Well, that's how a lot of us do put figures in the shark. I mean, it's the most logical way with all that beautiful glass above you. Oh man, this just so many questions. So many questions. Only in hindsight do I realize that it's nice that on this catalog we have both the shark and a version of Deep Six, because he was marketed in the figure selection, the 1989 version.
No, if only they chromed him up and put him in there.
I wondered to myself if there was like a bomb bay door that would open that you could release that bomb from, kind of like Condor or Switchblade, from Mask. Didn't it have
You're
a bomb?
imagining this thing much bigger than it really is, unfortunately.
Yes, because I couldn't see that there was a figure in there.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing was the most mysterious of all, because that heavily tinted canopy glass also didn't give the game away. It was a very strange vehicle. It looked out of step for what it was being marketed as. Little did I know that it was supposed to be a sub.
Yeah.
What, a flying sub? And I like that they matched the canopy to the Sky Raven. It has that kind of like darker canopy to it. So there's kind of consistency, across the vehicles in the line. Although they obviously didn't do that with the Sky Hawk.
But the final is not like that. The actual toy is way more amber. It's kind of like a dark-ish amber.
And the missile or torpedo, it should be a torpedo, is a white. Whereas here it looks like this beautiful, like navy gray.
Yeah, it matches the guns on the wings.
Wow. This thing,
this
thing for me is a lot like the Havoc. In that I just think it's so 80s. It's so of its time. It was so futuristic in a lot of ways for its time, and I totally lapped it up. And I gotta say, I didn't consider one because when I got into GI Joe again as a modern, when older me got back into GI Joe, or rather was able to get the toys and stuff. This started looking like a shark because I'd seen the cartoon and everything before that. So I'd forgotten in a weird way. I'd kind of forgotten that this existed as a repaint, and so it became the shark in my mind again for a long time. And then only later on, when I saw this again in like catalogs, this catalog actually, when I managed to unearth it, well, a friend of mine gave a whole bunch of them to me, that I realized like, oh wow, this thing's actually really cool. And I didn't think about getting one. I was always like, it'd be nice to find. And then Greg Crockett sent me one, along with a huge haul of toys. Well, it's your fault, Greg, because now I like them all. Like Sky Patrol just flipped in my brain.
He's put you on the road into the sky.
Such a cool vehicle, actually. And I'm gonna give it. I kind of feel like it's an A. I know I'm scoring very high because right now we haven't really had any stinkers.
Sky high, baby. You like the Sky Patrol? It's your thing, man. It's your jam.
It's your prerogative.
I'm gonna give it a C once again. Indifference. If you put it in my hands, I'll probably love it. In fact, I can invent reasons to love it. Like it does have a kind of a Viper, a Colonial Viper, Battlestar Galactica vibe, and if you elevate it from being just a submersible and you make flight its primary thing, as no doubt the Sky Patrol has, then it really fits that mold a lot more. And it makes sense to have guns then, like those guns on a sub, just I can't get my head around them. But
that's
pop-up
probably
guns
where they were going too. I mean, the way that they put the character in there, I think they assumed it could fly too, the same as what the test group of kids also thought was a flying vehicle.
I'm thinking more like space vehicle. Like if I was to integrate these vehicles now, I would think, the Havoc is for driving around on the moon. The Sky Shark is for, it's a space interceptor.
Protecting the
Defiant. Counter to the Stiletto. And it's
you keep calling it the Defiant, it's the Crusader.
Crusader, yeah. It's unfortunate the Skyhawk can't join these guys in space.
All right, so C tier for me. Rob, you
A or C? Oh my goodness.
well, no, you could make it an
I
S
can go
or
for
an
something
F.
else. I don't think it's like the shark has always been interesting, but it's weird because it feels like a very unique design compared to the rest of like what GI Joe necessarily had at the time. To me, it's never quite fitted in with everything else that GI Joe has. It's a cool design, but it's never really felt like a sub to me. And there's the little funny little piddly guns in there are a bit weird to me. It's like the guns come out of the engines, and it's like were the guns used to power it? Can it not fly anymore when it's not using the guns? And even though I think
the recoil reverse gear.
Yeah, exactly. It's I'm unfortunately this time I'm going to have to go with Steven and give it a C. I've never really been impressed by the shark overall, and making it silver doesn't make me want it more. Yeah, unlike the Havoc, I think the Havoc is a silver Havoc would be tons of fun to have. Sorry,
right,
Wolverine.
Let's see how much fun it is to have the Arctic Blast.
Wow.
Back to the regular releases. This thing. Had it as a child or once again as a young teen. I wanted it as a child, and I'll tell you why. There was always in the back of your mind when you were looking at the catalog and pining for things, this need to sell it to your parents. And this looked like a fairly inexpensive toy. It felt very attainable. Yeah. It felt like something that you could easily swing as a birthday present, Christmas present, or just I'm a good boy present. Like, please, Mom, I've been so good this month. Please put it in the trolley.
So good today.
I wanted it. And as a result, like, this is not a piece of crap. This is a B tier. Windchill is a fantastic figure who, for a driver, comes with 2 skis and a very nice rifle. The only knocks I have against that rifle is then it was released again with major altitude. So that kind of removed its luster a bit. I got major altitude first, and then I got Windchill second. So
but nobody else got...
The gun was less celebrated for me. But the fact that
nobody got machine gun skis. Sorry.
Oh god! Yes, the skis had magazines and barrels sticking out of them. Like, what the hell? How accurate are skis when they're going over terrain?
How does he shoot them?
Ridiculous. But we used them as children. We used that stuff.
Yeah, you like pop I don't know what ski is called their tricks. I've never been in a bad enough place in my life to try skiing. But it's not
Pop 180.
But like, yeah, you jump in there and you're like, and then I used to have so much fun with this figure. My friend Michael Kerrigan had the Arctic Blast, and surprisingly, he had the skis and I nearly called him Frostbite now. Can't believe. Anyway, I used to jam with the toy quite a lot because what happened is he had the snow. I lent my snow serpent to him, and then I borrowed this figure from him. I have such great memories of this toy as a kid because I would find it at the CNA. It was 50 rands. And I would be... It was a mission. It was like a whole... I really did the long con on my mom to try and get this for me, only to, at the very end, decide to just completely fumble it and just decide not to get it. And I don't know... Oh, I do know why. Because... on the day that I went to go and get it, somehow the bug was there.
Oof.
And then it was close to my birthday, and I thought, let's switch gears. Let's try not to get this out. My mom needs that 50 rand if she's going to buy me a bug. so I never got it as a kid.
Well,
but
50 rand seems a lot for the Arctic Blast. This is more of a 20 rand box.
No, it was 50, but I remember the price. Like 50 rand, it's stuck in my head. I don't remember what a Devastator cost, but I remember what this thing cost. And this thing was definitely 50 rand. It was the same price. It was just a little bit cheaper than, I think a mid-range Dino Rider at the time was 60 rand or 70 rand. So this was like...
I always get the feeling like you're inflating the costs. Maybe they've milked you guys in Joburg, but I can... I'll dig up a box with the price sticker still on.
Dude,
when I
that'll
get
be
back to
great.
Cape
But
Town.
I wouldn't be surprised if Joburg prices were a little bit higher than Cape Town, because it's kind of like that now. You know, if I
Inland
go down to
tax.
Cape Town, yeah, I know how, like, you guys have some things that are more expensive than they are in Joburg, for example. So it's just kind of a thing. Anyway, what should we give the Arctic Blast? I think the Arctic Blast is a novel curiosity at best. That, you know, definitely
We haven't
shows us
spoken
some
about the
good-
vehicle. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna enter into.
You will notice that.
We focused
Yeah.
on
the
the
figure
figure.
is really the coolest thing about this. The vehicle is
Mm.
it's two giant wheels and like a seat in between it, and they've thrown like Vulcan cannons on it. It's got like crazy spear missiles. It's got two twin cannon guns at the back that people can now stand on the rail and shoot,
Which is cool.
which is
It only
cool.
hit me now that the dreadnought vehicle of the snow, basically. It's just been
Yep.
faction swapped. But it's got the
Absolutely.
Thunder Machine double miniguns.
But it's
and
such an
it's got those
underwhelming vehicle.
frickin' tires.
Like, there's no stickers. They like even the
There are.
headlamps
There are
at the
some.
back. Well, there might be, but this thing, the picture itself doesn't sell you on it. I think the coolest thing about this is the figure. Unfortunately, yeah, you'd have to pay the money to get the figure. I'd rather just buy the figure separately. I would.
But you know what
rather
else sold
not-
this was the diorama. Like, look how incredible that diorama is. That
Oh, for sure.
was
You want to go
very
somewhere.
prominent in your mind when you were considering buying this.
Absolutely. And then you buy it and you're like, oh no. Oh, why?
They did reproduce this on the
On the
box art.
shelf.
So the magic
Go for it.
the magic in this vehicle, just before you drop your score, sorry Robin, I had to cut you off. The magic in this vehicle actually lies in the fact that it's the glue that brings your snow troopers together. So if you've got Sub-Zero or the Tundra Stalker, if you want to call him
No
that,
job.
or you have Snow Job, maybe, you know, your big brother had a Snow Job figure, you know, or you got
Snow
a
Job didn't
Frostbite.
see a release in South Africa. You wouldn't have had him.
No,
I get your point,
unfortunately.
Paul. This I'm going to preempt you. This is the Snowcats of our generation.
Yes, so you can put all your dudes on here, and two of them can mount the guns, and it's great because they're protected by the giant wheels. And there's a very convenient place to actually store those skis on the vehicle, which is such a novel thing. You know,
Yeah, to have
that didn't
figure, accessory, and vehicle synergy.
synergy.
That's it. Integration. It occurs to me as well, though, like those enormous clodhopper tires will just be throwing loose powder and snow at the guys on the runner boards at the back.
Mm-hmm.
That have so much wind chill.
I had this. I wanted it. If I am to dial my mind back to being a child again, it's got to be in the B tier for me.
Yeah, same. Yeah, definitely. It's a B tier vehicle. It's a curiosity at best. And it's a fun curiosity. It's not really a repaint. It feels like the front of something that's bigger. It ties your Arctic figures together, and it comes with a great driver. B.
Well, at this point, it doesn't matter what I say, but I would give it an F. I would always, I would never want to add this to my collection. I would get the
always
the figures
matters,
separately.
I'm
definitely it's
glad
good to hear
someone went there, you know, because Paul and I are viewing this through nostalgia goggles. We have to make mention of the fact that there's nothing
grew up
objective
with
about
the two.
this.
I grew up with the two, Stephen. You know, your collection.
You
was
just
my
thought it was
collection.
crap.
You grew up. No, but here's the important dividing line. You grew up with it, hence you didn't pine for it. I pined for it long before I actually got it. As I say, I got
mine
it
as an adult.
at age 14.
That is a distinctive difference, true.
I wanted it at age 8. So let's roll on to something that may also find its way to the bottom of the pile. The Fred Flintstone mobile, the Devastator. the Cobra Battlefield Robot Devastator. Because
Like if the last vehicle was underdesigned, I mean, this is worse. Like it's
it is the very definition of a budget vehicle. It shares a lot of parts with its sort of buddy vehicle, that being the Cobra hovercraft battlefield robots. It shares the missiles, the guns, the aerial. and it's a single piece of plastic that parts then snap onto. As an adult, I can appreciate the frugality of it. It was like, let's shoehorn another piece of vehicle into this line without blowing the budget too much. So
once
it
again,
gives
an
you more
affordable
fodder.
vehicle. Yeah,
Yeah,
fill up
and
the
one that
shelves.
wouldn't have existed if it didn't have these budgetary corners cut. Oh, but is it any good?
It looks like a Cobra vehicle. I mean, they certainly chose the best colors for it. I mean, by reusing those parts. But I feel like he could get a lot more done. I mean, also it's a bad choice of figure because he could get a lot more done if he just sticks with his, helicopter backpack, and flies around like that, I think, than being stuck in this tiny little vehicle that probably doesn't move much faster than he does at a walking speed.
I would argue
Chucky's
that
feet away.
Annihilators need more scope than just being heli troopers, because they're not billed as heli troopers. They're billed as Destro's elite troopers. So they need to be depicted in more varied situations like this.
Sure,
If you
But
only ever associate the
he's not
Annihilator
driving
with the
a
heli...
Destro vehicle, he's driving a Cobra vehicle.
Well, the
Yeah,
distinction
Shem, what
in the
did he do?
European catalogue is less clear. There isn't this kind of Destro's Iron Grenadiers are separate from everything else. There was no kind of like extra marketing, I don't know, explosion
They
background.
put them out separately. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. They were just
They were
other,
integrated.
more figures. Yeah.
So I'm not going to fight the figure selection on this. I also want to make a mention now that with the Devastator and the Radar Rat, they were marketed in Europe, whereas the Tri-Blaster and Hovercraft were not. So we had no awareness of the kind of the mold mates
Reuse,
of
yeah.
these two vehicles.
So, the Devastator. When we were kids, there were lots of like dumb sweets you could get. There was like teddy bear things, the little things you could snip off at the top to drink them. It was like really useless. It's like colored water that was sweet. It wasn't really great, but you bought it for the novelty of it being a bear. And then you had like there's a lot of shit candy. The thing is, all those things bring back nostalgia when you're an adult, and it's great. And I feel like the Devastator is exactly that. It is, and I'm not going to mince words here. It's a shit toy, but its magic comes in the fact that like it's something that you enjoyed a lot as a child, even if it was a boo-boo prize for you. I got mine as a free pack-in when I bought my Warthog. When my mom actually bought my Warthog for me, there was like, buy this and then get a small vehicle, then you get a bag of marbles or some shit. Well, that was the small vehicle we bought. It was between this and the Radar Rat, and I think the Pulverizer were the three options that they had at Dion's back in the day. I opted for the Devastator. It looked like it was more fun than a radar installation and looked a lot more fun than whatever the fuck that other thing. Spoiler alert for future events in this episode. But this vehicle is, like, honestly, it's something that you should get if you have great memories with it as a kid. But I don't think you should go out of your way to get one. And I think this is kind of maybe my first D.
We don't do D, Paul. We do C or F. So
then it's an F.
It's an F.
See, I don't want to be that harsh on it. Shame. I feel bad. I would say it's an F. It's like, I love that I have it. But because I'm speaking to a general audience, I feel like it's not fair for me to like go and tell you guys it's a C. I feel like it's an F. Like most of you should probably pass up on this unless you have really great memories with it or you're really curious about it. But if it's expensive, don't bother. I love mine.
Great box art. I mean, all of these things did. With Ali
It's got a cool
Viper.
name too, the Devastator. And then you get it out the packaging, it's this tiny little thing that the guy has to like push himself.
His feet dangling down the bottom.
That always bugged me as a kid. That's what annoys me about this toy.
And to try and squeeze them both into the cavity. Yeah, no, it's
a cool concept. I mean, it looks like a cool vehicle.
The best thing about the Devastator is exactly your point, Paul, but I'm going to extend this. Like, for mine, it wasn't a free pack-in. It was just like, I have 30 rands pocket money. That's enough to buy the Barracuda. and the Devastator.
15
Wow.
rand
So
each. Nice.
The Barracuda
25
was
and
like
5.
yeah, something like that. The Barracuda was $23, and this was $7. And
Wow, we really were like screwed. Barracuda up here was $50, bro. I shit you not.
Yeah. Well, that was
Yeah.
probably
Prices, but
in.
it's always been like that, I feel, or at least it used to always be like that. Prices were
93.
way higher in Joburg.
This is at
Yeah.
Access Park, me bro.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, that's where I got my warthog there.
Lekker.
Yeah, and I must admit, ever since that day, like I only ever played with the Barracuda. This was just also there, and the antenna snapped very early on. I lost one of the missiles very early on. The gun also.
The points on the missiles come off.
There's a difference in plastic quality between the Euro release that we got and the American release,
Mm-hmm.
though they're equally frail anyways. But the mushroom peg of my gun, just after a few swivels, had degraded to the point when it just crumbled to dust.
Gets manky. Yeah.
Mm.
And so this was very, very much less fun because of its fragility. I mean, it should be robust, as a budget short toy should be, but unfortunately it wasn't. Yeah. Time was not kind to this one.
I remember the front breaking off on mine quite quickly. The
Oh, really?
front plates on the
Jeepers.
original. Yeah.
You put some pressure on that bad boy.
I don't know what I did, but I just remember it breaking and being like,
Oh, wow.
that's dumb.
So yeah, if I take nostalgia out of it, this is an F.
Yeah, I give it an F2. Like, compared to almost anything else on this catalog, like, it's an afterthought. It's like you added it in there to just have something extra in the catalog.
It does not. It should never share company with the Crusader. So a C tier is too high for this thing. But we don't hate
Agreed.
it. Let's just
No,
say,
for sure.
say that much. It's not something we level abject hate at.
It's not that swamp that thing that ninja chopping vehicle. It's not that.
There's only one
This
vehicle
at
on
least
this catalog.
looks like a proper Cobra vehicle. You know,
Exactly.
it's got that going. It thematically it fits with Cobra.
There's only one vehicle on this that I hate, but we will get
Wow. Ooh, maybe it's
Is it the
next.
Radar Rat? And does
No.
the Radar Rat fare better than its Cobra counterpart?
there. Definitely.
No.
As a
okay.
kid, I was too dumb
like
to
a high
appreciate.
F.
No, as a kid, I was too dumb to appreciate this. As an adult, I grew to understand like this is actually kind of important to have in a battlefield situation. And also, as an adult, I also bought one for $50 from a shop that just happened to have one there sitting in the store and had a little bit of dust on. I was very excited. It was a very good Friday afternoon. So glad I went into World Wear, of all places that I never go to. And I'm like, damn, this thing is actually way better than than advertised. I just think it's great. It actually feels like a little model kit. It's an awesome toy. And I'm not going to mince words. I'm going to put it straight out there. For me, it's a B. It's a strong curiosity. You know, like, yeah. It's
Impressive.
fragile. It's got a little bit of It's got a little bit of what made the original GI Joe vehicles interesting. I find kind of it's dainty. It's small. It serves a good purpose, and I think it looks cool personally. So,
And it's got a cool story that you found it on shelves and not in like a vintage toy store or so, you know, anyone that would actually have any idea of the value or the vintage of this thing.
it's amazing. I mean, listeners can actually go
random.
back to our podcast because we were doing the podcast when I found this vehicle, so you can actually find that episode. I think basically I was in such a shitty place financially because it was just quite recent. It happened recently or soon after my retrenchment. I think it's like the only $50. There it is. But
No,
what
this
was
is
white?
the Tri-Blaster. And
Shit.
while the color,
It's so similar. Oh, there we go. Sorry,
the
it's a bit
gray,
blurry.
the wheels are gray on the American release of this stuff. Very interesting, I think.
Very nice.
That's weird.
But on the Euro, it's blue. Hey, what's up with that?
And
I don't know why.
I think Rock and Roll is such a great figure. I think we've also seen Backblast on
the
this and
box
other
arts?
catalogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's on the box art.
Mm-hmm.
So just looks cool. Just looks very military. So,
Robbie?
Rob, how much do you hate this?
Honestly, it's a tiny vehicle. The design doesn't blow me away. Obviously, it has a very niche function. It's some sort of it's the radar rat. It's out there, kind of detecting radar stuff. It's cool that it exists, but like those tires look really weird. They're not rubber. I'm glad that Rock and Roll is driving it. That kind of makes me want it a little bit more. But like, it's just very underwhelming. Probably, I wonder if it's more so or less so than the Devastator. I don't know. Devastator at least had a cool name. I've never wanted to buy this thing. I've never wanted to own it. And it's not really something that I think I need to like put onto my shelf somewhere and be like, oh, I have a radar rat. For me, it's an F. Like I have no interest in owning this. I think it's cool that it exists. It definitely does add to the types of vehicles that GI Joe has. It's a support vehicle. That's cool. That's cool for someone else. Someone else can buy it then.
Breaking my heart, Rob.
Well, I'm gonna reinstate your heart, Paul, because I mean I was gonna make this a C. I'm prohibited from doing that now because I have to decide: is this a B or is this an F?
choose.
And I'm gonna say it's a B.
Wow.
B.
There you go.
The B09. Lekker.
This toy I didn't want, but it was obviously going cheap, and I picked it up because it had GI Joe on the box, right? And instantly after getting it into the collection, unlike the Devastator, which was purely just an assault vehicle, this thing gave you a new mission. It is very much a support vehicle. Its function is it's a mobile radar station. So it gave you a new mission to get this behind enemy lines or into a strategic high point or something, so that you had radar coverage in an area that you otherwise wouldn't. So the radar rat became an important plot point in games going forward. So humble toy maybe, but its use spoke volumes. Like it's something that I definitely got a lot of interesting play out of. Even if it wasn't the star of the show, it became this objective. Yeah, cool thing.
Just a bonus. Like I feel like it's a great vehicle for like sneak peek or scoop.
It's not a great vehicle for sitting down on because you basically are sitting on those ridges. Ouch.
Yeah, you're like,
These two vehicles threw me into such strange disarray. Were they drones or were they meant to have occupants? They had seats. They had seats. They had seat belts. But what the hell, man? Like
You did not want to be the guy assigned to the radar rat. You were not going to get home comfortably.
I stand corrected. The Barracuda was 45 Rand.
Oh, and that thing was $5. Yeah, there you go.
Darklands Invader was 40 Rand at Dion's.
Wow.
And I don't have a price for the Devastator or Radar Rat, sadly.
I think the Devastator was 15 Rand or 20 Rand.
Okay.
I think.
Now it's time to roll into some heavy hitters, boys. At least on this side of the leaflet or catalog. It's time for the Thundercrap.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a big mother-hugging gun.
Paul, you didn't have this as a child, I assume, so you can kick this one off.
This has always like been interesting to me because it was complete mystery to me, and I was always fascinated about the whole gun feature as a kid because I could see something was going on there, but I didn't realize it was half as cool as it actually is. And I like the little vehicles. Again, this kind of has like a very sci-fi edge. And I think when I saw this vehicle was close to the same time that I saw the movie Total Recall. Kind of feel. And so these little vehicles kind of, in my mind, kind of always came across as like mining vehicles or construction vehicles. That's how they were always dressed in my brain. It also reminded me a lot of that, what is that line called? It was called Mighty Mac or something like that. Or that was
Multi-Mac.
Multi-Mac, there we go. And this also had a bit of that aesthetic too, which I was very into when I was younger as well. So there was a lot of things that were going on with this that I dug. But the thing that made me actually like this when I was a kid was David. David really liked the Thunderclap. He was always like, "This is amazing." Sorry, I bumped my mic. He's always like, "This is amazing." He always thought this was cool. If he could get his hands on it, that would be great because it's this giant, like, what is it? It's a howitzer or it's a giant cannon, whatever. And that's kind of what made me interested. It's like the big brother effect, when somebody older than you, who's a close friend of yours, or indeed your brother, likes something, then you kind of glomp onto it as well. So
I think the comments might correct us to say it's the Atomic Annie, which was
I suppose there's also that, yeah.
An artillery piece designed to deliver an A-bomb. I think it was mounted on tracks, so it was rail-based.
Yes.
But structurally, it had that kind of big steel bathtub with a cannon poking out of it.
Which I saw much later on in life as well, being into model kits and things like that. There's that also
there were
the
also
German
big
one
German guns, yeah. Also,
yes, yeah.
Massive artillery pieces that were on rails. Yeah.
Destined to also be able to launch shells into neighboring countries and across the ocean, or at least theoretically.
Shoot at England from the French coast, I think was the idea.
Yeah, so this thing, just based on the catalog, based on like never having played with it or any of that kind of stuff, I always kind of saw as a C, even though it had like the big brother effect and everything going on for it. But when you actually play with this and you understand the mechanism with the shells and that whole thing, well, then it just elevates it to being a very cool piece of toy engineering, which I think extends further than just being a GI Joe toy collector's thing. It goes into the realm of being a toy collector piece. And I kind of feel that it starts skirting the very high Bs, maybe even an A, just for the sheer technicality of it. And it's pleasantly colored for a lot of people who are military purists, or in the line who are military purists that say that, inverted commas. If you want something that's not as bright and garish as the other things from this catalog, then this might be like one of the choice picks for you. So I'd say like it's an A. Like
thoughtful.
I'm always tempted by the one that's on bid or buy. Sorry, Rob.
Any
It's
love
awesome.
for long range?
Yeah, long range. Do you like?
I think listen. Every vehicle driver is better than that dude from the Rolling Thunder. So yes, long range is cool.
Cool little gun too, and an interesting knick-knack. I noticed on 3D Joe's they were sharing some product images, some early mock-ups of the Thunderclap, and they didn't, I think, have Long Range's head and helmet sculpted up yet. Maybe the accessory piece hadn't been produced yet, so they just repainted Voltar's head. Very clever, because it's got that similar like one optic. So you instead of gold, it's now gray, and the beard is painted red, and boom, hey, Voltar standing in for long range. Rob, take it away, buddy.
This has always been impressive. I mean, I still remember you getting this, and the box was absolutely huge. And then you get it out of the box, and it's just like the color scheme is fantastic. Long Range is a cool figure, and I like that both the vehicles are very uniquely themselves. Like they didn't just kind of like copy and paste it and like just flip around where the attachment points are. Like these are different vehicles. In lots of ways, not just like the way that they move, the treads move. And it's cool, like the back one also like pivots on its treads.
Now, I don't know if that's an intended feature.
I
the
feel
cab
like it
can
is.
kind of swivel independently to the tracks. It's just the way it's kind of clipped together.
I think that
post.
helps it move a little bit more. I mean, if they didn't intend for it to do that, would have designed it to be more. They would have designed it like the front one, where the kind of thing kind of goes over the edge of the treads. I think that's
a nice hidden feature anyway, and you can bring the missiles to bear on targets behind you while you're still moving forwards. or sideways or whatever. Yeah, look, of the two vehicles, the back one is the weaker because the figure he sits too high on the seat, so he kind of has to scooch down into the cavity. Like the front one is excellent. The back one is an afterthought. But you make an important point there, Rob. They didn't share parts between them. This isn't a battlefield robot situation. They don't have the same missiles and the same top turret. They have unique missiles and unique top turrets. The front one has a removable engine cover and a fully sculpted like cockpit interior, like paneling and stuff. The back one has a sticker in there to kind of pick out the details. All of those details, however, you wouldn't have appreciated in this picture. So, Paul, I can get where you're coming from as kind of like it has a lot of promise and a lot of mystery as well. But for you and me, Rob, and certainly for me in my playtime alone with this thing, it became our GI Joe HQ, mobile HQ. We missed out on the MCC. We missed out on the 1983 HQ. We missed out on the Defiant. We missed out on all the sort of the GI Joe base stand-ins. So this was it. It could be deployed into a static environment with these two defending scout craft. It could then pack up and move enormous amounts of figures. I mean, it's basically just a big plastic bathtub that houses a cannon. But if you shoved figures under there, it became an APC as well. It had 4 seats, 5 if you want to count the gun chair, which typically is where I put long range. It had lots of seating, but then also just lots of standing room. It had running boards on the sides, which I was always kind of loath to use because I guess I liked putting guys inside the vehicle with some kind of protection.
Wouldn't be very comfortable to stand on those for long distances.
No, of course not. So yeah, it's more practical to kind of seat them inside the bath, the body of the craft. Yeah, man, I have terrific memories of playing with this thing. And I have terrific memories of the anticipation of this thing because it sat in my dad's cupboard for a long time before the event of my birthday on the 19th of November, 1998. That's just when I got this. So I was constantly, and I was not a child anymore. I was, as I say, 13 going on 14. So I was totally aware of where it was. And I would oftentimes, in quiet moments when Dad was making dinner or something, I would sneak into his room and into the wardrobe and move the coats aside and take a gander at this amazing box and just marvel at the potential, all the treasures that it held. My anticipation for that big day couldn't have been greater. So this was a very big deal for me, and I'd be a fool if I didn't record this as an S tier toy on that nostalgia alone. So that'll be my vote. Where it settles in terms of the rest of us will determine its place on the tier list. But it
sounds like Paul gives it an A. I mean, so S and A. I have to go with an S as well. I think it's such a it's a hugely impactful piece, and it also suggests a very interesting play style as well.
Artillery warfare.
Joe's artillery kind of bombing Cobra from a distance, kind of adds an aspect to their tactics and their strategy that they might not have had before.
Though I think, Rob, we use this thing as more of a surgical strike artillery piece than like a bombardment.
You had to see what you're shooting at for sure.
Well, no. My point is, Long Range's file card made it sound like he was like a one-shot wonder. Like he was so good with his azimuths, with his math, his geometry, that he could basically bring the shell down wherever he wanted it to be. So this wasn't about like is this artillery? It's kind of indirect fire. This was very direct fire.
Devastation.
This is the equivalent of like a sniper. So the mission was always to maneuver the Thunderclap into a position whereby Long Range could take that shot and wipe out something very specific from the board. So this was kind of the game ender. If you managed to get Thunderclap where it needed to go, like it was the primary mission. It was the linchpin of the battle. if you got it where it needed to be and long range could take his shot, that's it, boys. First round's on me. Let's get back on the C-130 and fly home.
But yeah, it has lots of wonderful memories, and it's just such an impressive piece overall. And as Paul said, I mean, it's so well designed. Like a lot of thought was put into it. Yes, maybe they didn't put as much thought into the back vehicle as they did the front, but overall, the entire package is it's fantastic. You'd do yourself a disservice if you weren't trying to add this to your collection.
They didn't cut corners. When I say the back vehicle isn't the standout, it still has a glass canopy. It still has a seat belt. It still has a fully designed interior. It has a bit of a clicky clackiness to its gun. It's got a little not a ratchet, but a kind of a plastic spoke that then kind of clicks on this track as you turn it, which is nice. The front one is just totally smooth, sort of mushroom clip.
And it has an aerial too. That's cool.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
And the cannon has a cool ejection system where it ejects the shells.
So cool.
Plus the barrel extends. Plus it's got a very firm ratcheting system.
Mm-hmm.
So it holds position. It doesn't kind of flop. It's love it. Oh, and the whole base plate, it spins on the base plate. So once it's deployed, you still can aim the cannon, which is so bloody good. It takes the design of the Atomic Annie and one-ups it by it can spin around. It's not married to whichever orientation the vehicle is in.
And look how cool it looks in this picture in the catalog. Like they've just positioned it so well. The little cliff face with the front vehicle sitting is watching for what's coming around.
The thunderclap does not disappoint.
Absolutely not.
What say you guys about Darklon's Evader?
Oh wow, the Tron bike.
A recumbent cycle.
It's a cool figure.
And I might have mentioned this before, but I have confirmation this was 39 rands at Dion's.
Lekker.
Yeah.
This thing takes a lot of flack because I don't know. Like it takes a lot of flack. It's actually not a bad vehicle. It's got the two little guns, it's got the missiles, it's got a great design. It's actually quite fun to play with, and the opening gimmick is cool. I think the thing that fails this vehicle is just the horrible color scheme for Darklon himself, which kind of hurts things. And it's mostly his pants. I don't mind the green stripe thing. I feel like a Darklon's Evader is a fun vehicle to get. It's pretty easy to get these days still. It's cheap. Most people are trying to get rid of them. I often see this on South African toy groups, meaning that there's an abundance of them. You know, if there's a few of them in South Africa, there's an abundance of these things. It's kind of it's not an F. It's definitely not an F. It's certainly better than a Devastator, but it's not as memorable as other things. So it's kind of very much a C vehicle. It's nice to have. It's got some cool stuff. It's never been replicated again. There's no vehicle like this later on in the 90s line, at least. They didn't repaint this thing. They didn't recolor it. They didn't re-release it. It's unique for that. And yeah, you could mod it into something else if you wanted to. Rob dropped the Tron cycle thing. Go for it. This would have been more interesting had it had a separate piece for the engine block at the back, so that could have been like silver plastic or something. Would have made it more visually interesting. And yeah, it's a C vehicle. It's a really good C vehicle, especially because it's still cheap today.
This is like this for a small vehicle. This does better than what the Devastator, or for me, what the Devastator, the pack, it's Radar Rat does. It's a small vehicle, but there is more to it. Yes, it fits one character, but it has got squirrely missiles. It once again looks very thematically like a Cobra vehicle. I mean, it has like the whole Cobra like hood thing at the back there. So it looks like a proper Cobra vehicle. And the figure is kind of cool. I mean, yes, his color scheme is very muted.
But his face is cool.
Suggests, his face is very cool. I mean, the look of him suggests evil. He suggests, I'm going to get up to crazy shit, and I'm going to do it in this cool vehicle, which looks very fast. I think it's a fun vehicle. Like it's small. It's pretty basic, but it's a level above the Devastator and the Radar Rat, where it's complete in itself. It comes with a cool it comes with the figure. I mean, those ones didn't. I mean, what? Why bother?
Yeah, it's a great
I'm gonna give it
accessory
a-
for Darklon
I'm, yeah, for sure. I'm going to give it a B.
because his
I
gun
mean,
is cock. Sorry.
well, that's why he comes with the vehicle. You don't even have to give him his gun. You can just stand there and race around and destroy things. I'm giving it a B. I think it's a fun little vehicle. Yeah, I don't hate
Whoa.
it. He fits nicely in it. Yeah, I think it's quite cool. I mean, maybe if the tires were a bit bigger, that would be kind of more fun. But yeah, it's cool to kind of like open it up, put him in, and open it up again,
At
take him
least
out.
it's armored in the front, right?
Exactly. I feel like a little bit more thought went into this than say the Devastator or the Radar Rat. Definitely the Devastator. But
I love the design. The whole way it opens is actually very clever. Very underappreciated.
They knew that. I mean, in the catalog. I mean, look how cool he makes it look. He's like standing on the front of it. He's like, I'm
got no hydraulics. I gotta hold it up.
Destruction.
And what's say you, Steve?
How do we feel about this?
Tough. Had it as a child. Probably would have lumped it in that category of like things I pined for because I knew they were achievable. And not everything that was in that category was desirable for me. Like into that category could go the Fang 2, which is also readily available in stores alongside Darklon, alongside the Sky Storm for some reason. But Darklon was the one that I got. I can't remember. It was probably just a regular purchase, just something I cajoled my mother into, or father. Probably dad. Yeah, it was probably on a Saturday, so it was probably dad.
I've gone to the shop. You might as well get me something, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. 40 Rand isn't that much money, is it?
Don't tell mom's not here. Yeah.
It was 4 weeks pocket money at the time. So
that's a bottle of wine, boy.
Yeah, I would have saved up a month to buy Darklon Zeveda if I was buying this on my own pocket money. So I must have really wanted it. The figure does sweeten the deal because say what you will about him, it still just makes for a more interesting purchase if you've got not only a vehicle driver, but a unique vehicle driver who is a kind of a Cobra-named character. Yeah, he did change the landscape of things. I could see that he was Destro's sort of relative, so he was kind of he was in there. He was an heir to the Cobra throne in a sense. He was one of those factions vying for control. So he made things interesting. I love the fact that the guns, like if you didn't like Darklon's weird multi-barrel, whatever it is, dart gun, Gatling gun, whatever you want to call it, air-powered, you could snap off the guns from his vehicle. And those things
dual wielder.
Say hello to my little friends.
They did not muck around. Like they looked like smart guns. There's sort of an Aliens vibe to them, but with a much more extensive barrel. Not smart guns. I'm referring. Actually, it looks like the love child of the pulse rifle and the smart gun. I was meaning to say pulse rifle, but the barrel gives it the length of a smart gun. I don't think I can give it a B though. I don't know. I wouldn't. I don't know if I pined for it hard as a child, and I don't know if I would pine for it now if I didn't have it. In fact, it's debatable whether or not I'd even want it if I didn't have my childhood one. But what the hell? Let's let nostalgia reign. I'm going to push this into the B category myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Excellent.
Cool, man.
But I mean, that indecision is interesting on your part. I mean, that's obviously something that a lot of people do feel based off like how many are available out there. So,
I had so much fun with it as well. It was a neat vehicle that kind of you could face off. Like, oh, it was my birthday. That's when I got it. Bloody hell! My parents just left the price sticker on because whatever, they don't care. But I got this the year I got Sub-Zero. And I just remember having Sub-Zero crouched behind cover and this thing just drilling the cover away and Sub-Zero trying to return fire and hitting the canopy and Darklon being like, ha, 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 that's the armored carapace. You cannot pierce it. Ding, 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 ding. And then that night we went to Spur and I burnt my hand on my sparkler. Because I got a Tico the Clown and the sparkler was going and going, and it was like, I want to have my ice cream. Grab the metal of the sparkler. Oh,
Nice.
Man. Idiot child.
Sugar the Cloud, burning fingers since 1989.
92. I think it was
It was
1992,
terrifying.
if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Early doors. Okay,
At least there wasn't a hot rock
tier.
element. B tier.
All right, boys.
B.
Here we go.
Ooh.
It's the Razorback.
And also, it's such a weird thing to talk about.
Now, I'm going to kick things off with a lovely little memory that I have of this thing. So in the year 1993, my dad did a sabbatical in England, and I sent him a letter to say, I sent him to England with this catalogue in his pocket so that I could refer him to things that I wanted him to be on the lookout for.
Number 13, Dad.
I have this letter currently. Wait a minute. I need to make things shuffle away for a sec. Okay. God, I can't even read it.
On 27 May, I won a game of
Dodgeball. And everybody got 2 times drill except me, Scott, and Niall. I'm very sad, but I hope you are having a good time.
Sorry.
And I also looked at my GI Joe leaflet. You probably have, but if you haven't and you can't make up your mind, I've chose the Cobra Razorback. And please turn over the page. Okay, I don't go into any more detail. Basically, guys, I was trying to convince Dad so hard to get me the Cobra Razorback.
This is the one, Dad. We were so sad.
This is the one that I want. Of
To
all
make me
these
feel
toys,
better, you should get this.
this one spoke to my 8-year-old mind like no other. I guess, like, we have to completely de-age ourselves mentally to kind of understand the appeal. But like, was this not a smart bomb in this image? The ball turret, all the glass, all the missiles, comes with a driver, has articulating wheels. Like, this thing is just loaded with features.
It looks like a lot of fun. I'd have to say so. It looks like you can do anything.
Photographed from this angle, you don't see the hollowness of the underside. It looks solid. The color looks like a richer yellow in this photograph. I think the ball turret, more than anything else, made this look premium. Made this look like, wow, how does that even function? That's like a World War II bomber ball turret on a plastic toy. It was like nothing else in the line, and certainly nothing else in this catalog. So this was the one that my brain just melted over.
But fast forward to, I mean, do you have a race? No, you don't have a raceback, do you?
Still to this day, man.
This is such an odd vehicle for me as well, because I had the same appeal with it.
Isn't that funny? It's the one that I prioritized over all others. I even have documentary evidence. It's the one that I do not possess. It's just
I just thought it was super sexy, man. I mean, look at those wheels. Got kind of a sports car-y kind of look. You know, the gold missiles. Well, should I say like coppery missiles look good. That pink missile on the top there, that gun looked interesting. There's a lot of stuff.
I'm glad you raised it. Do you know that is an edition for the European market? That is an exclusive edition. Yes. The 1989 Razorback in the States did not have spring-loaded missile launchers, but when they ported this over to Europe, they decided, this is the future. So 1991,
this thing really sell.
They added,
but that's so subtle.
Pink missile launcher. It is,
but that's how you do it.
To be there.
Yeah, and also that in my mind, I always thought I didn't realize that was a radar. It always seemed like a plunger, like you're supposed to press that to make it do something. So I was like, what does it do? Like,
the thing in the middle there, yeah.
But this vehicle, having seen it a few times when we were in the States and pictures of it, it's a C. If you find one and it's in good condition and it's not completely broken, and most of them are broken, Yeah, grab it because but I don't think it's worth going out of your way to get one because I think it's going to be a painful journey. Because a lot of them are broken. A lot of those mushroom clips are broken. The ball canopy, at least that still stays as being awesome. But I don't know. It's just this thing has lost a lot of its luster for me as I've gotten older, and it's the hollowness. It's the hollowness, and when you see it holistically, when you see it as a whole, as a vehicle, actually underwhelming. When you see it in this catalog, it's mind-blowing. The catalog really makes this thing look sex. Like, it does. It just does do something to it. But in hand, it's very plain. Normally.
I'm curious though, Paul, like, should we not be trying to interrogate just these images? I mean, we're not doing a tier list of the toys. We're very specifically couching this as a tier list of this catalog and how these toys
Of the
were
catalog?
presented. Mm.
Oh no, in the catalog it tells it as an A. Because it's sexy. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
sexy
more
as all
interested
hell.
in that
I mean,
because yeah, in later years you've discovered that the emperor has no clothes, that the reason they
Wild Boar sucks.
photographed it at this angle is because it is extremely hollow underneath. And the trouble with the Razorback is, thanks to its feature, it draws attention to its hollowness because it does this.
mhm.
You can then see it there almost. You can see the cavity.
Also, in the GI Joe video game, these things are in the GI Joe video game, the arcade game.
Yes.
And that I remember when we saw them at Sun City in the arcade game, I was like, oh my word, I wanted one. So the catalog made me know that it existed. So yeah, I'd say for the catalog, it's totally an A, definitely.
Rob, I don't think I've ever gotten your opinion on the Razorback ever. So this is fascinating time.
I think it looks really cool. Like the color scheme all comes together. The vehicle driver looks kind of cool. I don't know why he's all red and black instead of
Famously lampooned by Paul. Paul's never been kind about old Wild Boar. But yeah, it's a good color combo.
He looks like a cop, I guess you could almost say. Like he's like dressed up as like a SWAT officer.
Like a fucking lives up to his name.
Did you know that his hose goes from his head to his wrist, basically? He's got a little peg.
Is that what that little black thing I can see there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? That's weird. That's what? So he knows the time better? I don't know. He's connected directly to his watch. You can always tell what time it is.
It's like boring.
Yeah, I think seeing it on this catalog, it is mind-blowing. I can understand why a younger you would be enamored with it. I mean, it looks like you can put two vehicles in the canopy in the front there.
Two figures.
Two figures in the front there. At least
and they look
one in
like
the
comfortable seats, man, with a great
absolutely.
view.
Cobra's like put all their money in this thing.
If your mind always drifts to like starfighters, having a tandem cockpit like that or side by side cockpit like that, that's cool, man. You got a buddy to talk to and like handle the workload of like targeting systems and piloting.
Yeah,
and
he's doing his thing, and that's just the color scheme, and also I think the more wheels something has, the cooler it is somehow, and they look articulated as well. So it's gonna have like it can just go anywhere. And the picture
amazing diorama, like to have it able to demonstrate the hinge by having a bit of terrain for it to move over. Like this is a beautiful picture, and once again, with the European box backs, this is the image that was used. So all the points that rotating ball turret, laser multi-positionable gun, like all those things were kind of
thousands of missiles,
lettered points on this image.
You know who like pines for this vehicle like in a big way is Skulls from Joe Master Joe's. He is on the quest to try and get himself one of these that is just complete and mostly functional and intact. And to him, I say
credit this
good luck,
catalog.
Sir.
This catalog was probably what's placed it in such high esteem for him.
It must be, yeah.
Anyone who encountered this image has a attraction to
Boner
this
for it. Oh yeah, totally.
It's magnetic. So, gosh, child me obviously gives us an S. It's only in the cold light of adult day that I that
But
I would degrade that score. But I want
beyond it.
to maintain that childlike naivety about this. And since I don't have it, and maybe will never have it, that's where it will stay for me.
You can hang on to that.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably go with Paul's nostalgia and give it an A. I don't think I can give it an S. It doesn't blow me away. But it definitely is very interesting. Like you look at it and you do want to play with it. Like this picture just suggests so much that you can do with it and have fun with it. They put a lot of effort into it. Maybe they knew that's how rubbish it was.
Well, it's not rubbish
Like
according to this tier list
product.
because it is going to find itself onto the A tier along with the Sky Raven. Unbelievable. Who knew the Razorback could touch those heights?
Oh,
Now here we go with I suppose a controversial vehicle in a sense. Hot take for this episode. I like this far more than the classic His tank. It's the
incredible.
His 2.
Wow. That's sacrilegious. You don't like the sleek black original vehicle?
If you've tasted the His 2, the His tank, it's purely just an icon. This is the working class hero. This is what you want your His tank to be able to do.
Yeah, this is.
It does all of it. I mean, it expanded on what the original did. You know, it can hold 2 figures. The way that the cockpit opens is really awesome, and the kind of like unintended feature of shoving your figures into the back underneath the cannon has now become an actual feature. Where the back of it opens up, you can actually it's molded in there. You can put them in, you can take them out. Probably the only thing I don't think is cool about it is the track Viper. I mean, it's a weirdly designed figure. His head, he can't be a person. It has to be a robot. It's a bat, essentially, renamed as a track Viper. And his purpose is just to drive this thing. It really is impressive. And it's bigger than the original. It's a lot of fun. I just don't know what it's doing in this picture. It's kind of like half driving out of a desert. There's like a cliff or something behind it. I don't understand what's going on.
Neither do I, but I love the treads.
Go ahead, Paul.
I just love the treads in the sand.
Yeah, that's cool.
Quite a lot.
That is a nice touch.
Where did you think it was?
For the longest time, I thought that back hatch was really just a harsh shadow. Like we pondered, is that the shadow cast by the vehicle, or is that somehow attached to the vehicle? It's such an absolute black. Like the printing did not give much detail on it. So our eyes
see that mistake. Yeah,
it tricked our eyes into thinking this is a shadow.
Because
we were idiots. Idiots.
It's like they want to show off all the features, but just by pushing that thing out like that, it doesn't suggest to you that there is a space back there. It's just like it has a giant reverse-facing battering ram.
Yeah. Yeah.
It reverses into something and destroys it.
I kind of had that feeling too. Also, it doesn't really reveal that the cockpit opens from the bottom.
No, definitely not.
Or
that it holds 2 people. I mean, it does. It's side by side. But like, I guess because of the foreshortening of this image and the size that Track Viper occupies by having him stood up on the exterior, you think to yourself, now hang on, can it fit 2 figures or 1? But yeah, it's a wide vehicle. It's similar to the length and height of the His, but it's wider. So yeah, man, side by side.
As a kid, I was always like fascinated by the red glass in the front there. It looks like there's like a little slot for you to put your fingers in to open up the canopy. But then, obviously there isn't space for the canopy to swivel up. So I was always like, how is that supposed to work? So I was always like, so for me, my curiosity about this was always, how do you actually, like, what is the answer to that? What is the answer to that question?
Of this toy.
And then David got one just out of nowhere. He found one, I think, at a Reggie's in Fourways Mall. And I love this thing. I mean, this is like the RoboCop of the His tanks, whereas the first one's like the Ed 209. Like, it's cool, but it sucks when it gets to stairs. This one's mean. It's got. I love the APC side of it. That's one of the best things ever. It makes it a great counter to something like the Warthog, which is cool.
Well, funny you should mention that. It was either the Hiss 2 or the Warthog for me, and I picked the Warthog. It was the lead up to Christmas 1992, and we were at Access Park. Wisely. So the Hiss 2 was there, the Sky Raven was there, the Warthog was there, the Barracuda was there, and I went with.
I wish I was in Cape Town. I had way more GI Joe toys.
I was fascinated by the box art of this thing, because I think it gave more detail on the cockpit. Like you could definitely see that. Oh, hang on, that you can fit 2 figures in there. But yeah, no. Next to the Warthog, this was not going to find its way into my shopping cart. Cool hidden feature that I only realized later on in life. The back section has these kind of rifle ports. Those 2 slots that repeat on both sides are actually open to the interior. So, I mean, if your posing game is really up to snuff, you could turn your Vipers around and poke their guns through if they have kind of long-barreled weapons.
I love that feature. Love that.
And the same on the back. I mean, all those where the light is poking through the shadow, all those kind of like slots in the back essentially give you the option to make this a real gun bus, like just rifles poking out everywhere.
The Cobra Phalanx.
Yeah, they're not just sitting back there doing nothing. They're actually helping this thing do its job.
I'm not enamored with the red color, but it is a signifier of the times, this being the kind of the later 80s into the 90s. I mean, if it was black, I probably would have preferred it, because that plastic color has a tendency of looking very plasticky. You know, it's not a deep red, it's kind of a waxy plastic red. And I'm also not crazy about 3 barrels stacked together. I would have almost liked it to be a single barrel, but then I think to myself, where's the fun in that? This is far more Cobra. To have this tri-barreled. I think they're posited as a laser, at least on the box back or somewhere.
Tri-barreled laser thing.
Also, like the way it goes around the user. You know, like
that's cool.
Like a
it's a little bit of protection there. Yeah, exactly. You're locked in. And it's cool that it's got a little bit of like paneling, like texturing, like there's a screen, I think, or some kind of there are instruments in that center console for him to kind of manipulate,
control the cannon, do what he has to do.
And Track Viper just goes into the canopy and stays there. You know, the gray color under the red glass means that he's kind of visible. He looks tasteful, but never has to really come out of his tank. Guys, this is an S all the way, baby.
Yes,
I agree with that completely.
All the way to the bank.
Unanimous S tier. Right. So that means we have 3 vehicles in the S tier: the Sky Havoc, the Thunderclap, and the Hiss 2. The A tier has 2 occupants: the Sky Raven and the Razorback. On the B tier, we have the Skyhawk, the Arctic Blast, the Radar Rat, and Darklon's Evader. C tier, the Crusader. How the hell did that happen? And the Sky Shark. And then in the bin, we have the Battlefield Robot Devastator. Gents, I think this is a good breaking point. We have done the first phase of the catalog in terms of the vehicles. So we're going to roll this over into a 3-parter. Part 1 being the figures, Part 2 being the first set of vehicles, and Part 3 forthcoming
being the other
for the next set of vehicles. Awesome. So stay tuned. Subscribe to GI Joburg if you haven't already. Hit that notifications bell. Do all the things so you don't miss out on Part 3 of the 1991 Euro Catalogue tier list.
Come on down.
It's so cool that we ended up on an S. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all we say about that. So, check you next time. Thanks for watching, and be sure to leave a comment with your own rankings. Do you agree with us? Do you tell? Are we completely way off? Let us
tell us another story. Tell us how cool they were for you when you saw this catalog.
And let us know. What were your favorites as a kid? You know, like aside from our rankings, tell us your story in the comments.
Yo, Joe.
Like that to me is awesome. Yeah.
Berg.